So far this season, the Dallas Mavericks are 9-3, which is good for second in the West and puts them behind only the Denver Nuggets. So this begs the question, are the Dallas Mavericks a legitimate contender, or are they due to fall off a little bit? In my opinion, I think they could definitely stay a top 3 seed in the West throughout the rest of the season, and I don't see them falling any lower than 4 realistically, I think. Now, Dallas is the second best offense in the league, only behind the Pacers, but on the flip side, they are also 7th worst at defense. Now, that combined leaves them at 8th best combined in overall net rating, and that's not a bad place to be. It's a pretty good place to be, actually. But I will say, with a defense that bad, you're kind of liable to drop a few games here and there that you probably should be winning, because a team like Dallas that relies so heavily on their three-point shooting, they've actually made the most threes out of any team so far this year. When your defense isn't on and you rely so heavily on the three-point shot and you have an off shooting night from your guys, you're going to drop a few games that way. And then also playing the other top tier teams in the league already is a difficult task, but it becomes even more of a difficult task when your defense isn't really up to snuff. And even if you're scoring at a decent rate, you're probably not going to be able to outscore teams like the Nuggets and Celtics on a consistent rate, who are not only great offenses, but good defenses as well. So as good as the Mavericks are and have been this season, I think the way they become a legitimate contender is by becoming a somewhat average defense. I think that's key for them this season. Now, I think Jason Kidd is a pretty solid defensive coach, and the personnel on the team isn't terrible to put together a defense. The Mavs have moments where they look good out there on defense, but they also do have moments where it kind of comes crashing down and it doesn't look great. It does kind of seem that their defense is slowly trending upward. The other day they were 6th, now they're 7th worst. So if they can continue that, maybe they can become a somewhat average defense from within without bringing in anyone extra. But I don't know how viable that is. Maybe it is. They were a good defense a few years ago, but they did have Dorian Finney-Smith and players like that back then. And I think this might be a long shot, but I do think a good trade idea that could improve the Mavericks defense, especially perimeter defense, which is where I think they need the help, is if they trade Richaun Holmes and whatever picks it takes to get Alex Caruso. Now, that might be a high price tag, I think, because a lot of teams would be looking to get Alex Caruso, and generally I would say he's worth at least 1 first-round pick. But with so many teams trying to get him, I think the price tag will be even higher, to where we're sending a player like Richaun Holmes, who's basically, for the Bulls, that's the kind of guy that they don't care about getting Richaun Holmes. They're not interested in him at all, really. So we have to make up for it with even more draft capital in a way. So we have 2 first-round picks I think we can send out. Hopefully we wouldn't have to send out both of them in a trade like this. Maybe we could get away with 1 first-round pick and a few seconds. But if we really wanted to go all in and I think make this team the best it could be, getting a guy like Alex Caruso could be really good. Sending Richaun Holmes and maybe even up to 2 first-round picks to get him in there, I think that would shore up the perimeter defense and just defense overall a lot. And, he's not a bad three-point shooter. He's a little inconsistent at times, but I think he'll fit in and get up a lot of nice shots with Luka and Kyrie dissecting the defense. Now, unfortunately for some of the players who are on the team, a trade like this would impact minutes for guys like Jaden Hardy, Seth Curry, who's already struggling to get minutes, surprisingly, and, even a guy like Dante Exum, who's in this weird sort of backup point guard role, but he only really plays in the second quarter. But yeah, overall, I think getting Alex Caruso in here would make the team considerably better, especially if we only had to give up Richaun Holmes, not to mention the picks, but that's the future's problem, Now, I kind of owe Kyrie Irving a little bit of an apology. Now, I wasn't completely out on Kyrie, but I think out of all the teams in the NBA, the Mavericks being my favorite team, they're the team that I react emotionally to the most. So, Kyrie getting off to a rough start, I wasn't really happy with him. I believed he would come around, but it was tough for me watching him play the Nets and Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith both having great games. Then, I was kind of mad watching Kyrie struggle. But he's starting to shoot better. He's starting to finish at the rim better, which was kind of mind-boggling to me that he was missing a lot of shots at the rim that seemed easy shots for him. But yeah, Kyrie's finally back on course. He's looking great. I like what I see from him out on the court. Just to touch on some of the other players on the team, Grant Williams is still shooting it well from three. His scoring overall has come down a little bit, but he's still a great player out there, shoots the ball well, and is just overall a great presence for the team. And even a guy like Derrick Jones Jr. is kind of surprisingly having arguably the best season of his career. He was like a minimum guy we brought in this year before the season started, and he started every game. Maybe he missed one start, but he's pretty much started every game. He's had like 4 games with over 15 points per game. I made a comment before the season started that he's a good guy to have, and he's not going to win you any games, but he's not going to lose you any games either. I think I was kind of wrong in that he's kind of won us a few games with how well he's playing. I think it's notable how he's kind of playing with more aggression and confidence than I've ever seen him play with. He's shooting the 3-ball better than I've ever seen. And maybe this is just because I didn't watch him as much in the past, but it feels like he's dunking even more than he used to. He's always had the crazy hops and been able to throw it down, but I feel like he's doing it more often this past week or two with the Mavericks. And now finally the biggest thing I want to touch on. So outside of like everyone on the team shooting well from 3 so far this year, pretty much, the biggest things on this team are obviously Luka Doncic is number 1. But what else is really good on this team is Derek Lively II and his play alongside Luka Doncic. Because now both of them on their own are great players. Luka being one of the best players ever pretty much. But the way they play together takes it to a whole nother level. Now on his own, Luka is averaging pretty much NBA 2K13 my career numbers with 38 and 8, shooting 42% from 3. But when he's doing a pick and roll with Derek Lively, you're pretty much getting almost 4 guaranteed results. Either Luka's getting a bucket somehow, Derek Lively's throwing it down, Luka's kicking it out to find an open man in the corner or on the perimeter, or even Derek Lively is kicking it out to find an open man in the corner. Now that's kind of what's been surprising me the most. I think we all kind of expected Derek Lively to come in and be an effective role guy, but what's really surprised me and impressed me is his ability to find the open man when he gets the ball in the paint. So obviously he's great at finishing it on the roll. He throws it down, he catches lobs, but when he gets the ball and the defense is collapsed on him and Luka, he's actually really good at being able to find the open guy in the corner or the open guy on the wing, or even find a guy cutting every now and then. And now he's not like a playmaking center, that kind of role that you see now with like Jokic and Şengün and Sabonis. He's not that. But he's a very good passer for a center and knows how to make the right pass and throws good passes more often than not. Now, all that being said, I think the Mavericks are a legit team. I'm not saying they're going to win the finals or even the West this year, but it's looking more and more like a real possibility of something that could happen. Now, that might just me being biased, so I want to take it back a second and say, in the Western Conference, I still think the Nuggets are the best team. I think the Nuggets are probably going to the finals, and I think the Celtics are probably going to the finals from the East, and I probably think both of those teams are better than the Mavericks. I don't want it to sound like I'm just hyping up the Mavericks nonstop for this whole video, but I do think there are some legitimate things to be excited about, and I could see a world where it shakes out where Dallas finds themselves back in the Western Conference Finals, maybe even the finals, although that would have to be, probably off of some seeding luck and unfortunate injuries to other teams like the Nuggets maybe. But the Mavericks are such a good team that they could put themselves in a position where if everything goes their way, they could find themselves in the Western Conference Finals or the finals. But yeah, now that I said all that, if you watched the video this long, I assume you must have liked something. So go ahead and maybe leave a like on the video or even subscribe. It really helps the video do well and helps the channel grow. But yeah, all that being said, I'll see you guys later. Peace.